Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here today, my name is Odds, and we are going to be talking about The Batman. I will be giving you my review and a little recap of the movie. So if you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe. I do 2 videos a week. This week I'm doing 3 because this video is supposed to go up on Friday, but it's going up today on Monday. So I'm doing 3 videos a week this week. I do beauty vlogs, DC, Marvel, lots of comic book content on this channel, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And let's go ahead and get started in the video. Little summary of the plot. Batman teams up with Catwoman and Jim Gordon separately to take down the Riddler. So the Riddler in this is a serial killer. He is like a Zodiac type. He has the little ciphers like the Zodiac killer had. This movie was very much an homage to Fincher. So we don't just see the Riddler, we see a lot of other characters, including Falcone, very famous mob boss from the DC Batman comics. We see the Penguin, who is another big character in this, but not the ultimate villain. He's just a villain. Really like this iteration of the Penguin. Very different from the Batman Returns, but more comic book accurate than Batman Returns. So he's more like himself in this than he is in Batman Returns. There are some horror elements in this as well. Again, when we go back to Fincher and Zodiac, there are some scary moments of Zodiac. So I think of the opening sequence where we have the Riddler going after the mayor, and he's clearly like getting off on killing this man. Very much a psychopath in this. Again, a very more, I guess, I don't want to say realistic, but kind of a more grounded take on the Riddler than like, you know, Jim Carrey's Riddler or the Riddler from, again, the comics. So this one's a little bit less accurate versus Penguin, who's a little bit more accurate. But that being said, I loved this movie. It's probably one of my favorite comic book movies. Again, there's something in my eye. It's probably one of my favorite comic book movies of all time because it is very comic booky, even though there's elements that they obviously changed and allowed for creative direction for Matt Reeves, which I think Warner Brothers has not allowed in a long time. Now, this is very much a standalone Batman movie, and I don't think what I really like about this is I don't think it is too similar to the other Batman movies to make it like, oh, this is just a Batman movie. We've seen this before. We don't really need to see this again. So it's a very interesting take on Batman Year One, since this is like his second year as Batman. So we get to see that he is flawed and he is thinking that he's just, you know, at the beginning of this, he's just vengeful and that's who he is, versus at the end of the movie where he knows he needs to inspire hope in people. So when we see sequels, we're going to see a much different character, a much more adapted character of the Batman, as well as a different type of take on Bruce Wayne. I want to talk about the performances in this movie. I think everyone was well cast. Everyone acted great in this movie. I think the biggest, I feel like, shock to everybody probably was how good Robert Pattinson was as the Batman. I know a lot of people didn't think that he could do it, but he really stepped up his game. I mean, he's a great actor, and unfortunately a lot of people only know him from like Twilight or as Cedric in Harry Potter. So this is definitely a much different performance than what I think general audiences were expecting from him, but ultimately really good. This is a much different Bruce Wayne. He is very, I guess I wouldn't say much different. He's not at all interested in being Bruce Wayne. He's just interested in being the Batman. He's a lot more broody, which is more of like Batman is the broody character, but he is definitely a lot more broody in this than say, Christian Bale or Michael Keaton Batman. He's not seen as this billionaire philanthropist yet. I think that we will get into that in future sequels. Let's talk about Selina Kyle Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed her performance. I also Zoe Kravitz. So I think I enjoyed her performance other than the fact that I find her incredibly attractive, which I think a lot of people do. We really get to see elements of Catwoman that are not previously addressed. Again, we have like the Anne Hathaway Catwoman, we have obviously the Halle Berry movie, which was terrible. And then we have my previous favorite version of Catwoman, which is Michelle Pfeiffer. So even with Michelle Pfeiffer, we don't really see her really have her motivation very clearly laid out as much as in this movie. So very good to see a well-rounded Selina Kyle. Another standout performance from this has to be, thank you, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. He's a very stereotypical Italian mob boss, which I know probably can ruffle some feathers, but that's what he is, so it is what it is. I think the car chase sequence was absolutely fantastic, especially the light up of the Batmobile. We really got to see that this version of the Batmobile, not my favorite Batmobile, but a very interesting take on it since it's kind of more of a tricked out car versus the other versions that we've seen, which like the ones that come to mind immediately are like basically the tank, like one from the Nolan trilogy, and then the very Tim Burton-esque one from the Keaton movies. I thought Jim Gordon was fantastic in this. I think Jeffrey Wright was fantastic. Really got a different take on Jim Gordon. I think this is the best version of Jim Gordon that we've seen. We've had some really great actors play Jim Gordon over the past iterations, but I think this one really takes the cake. We get to see a lot more of him. And overall, what I really love about this movie is that it is a detective story. We get to see Batman as the detective. Maybe he's not the world's greatest because he can't figure out the final riddle, but final riddle in time, but he actually is, instead of just beating characters up or just there to form the Justice League, he is actually being a detective and getting that done. And filling in the holes where the Gotham PD can't get there in time because most of them are corrupted. I thought there was a really great relationship with Gordon and Batman. We get to see, he calls him man all the time. Somebody joked on Twitter that it's because he thinks that's his last name. Clearly it's not the case, but it's just because that's the characterization that we have of Jim Gordon in this. But they have a really good relationship where they work together, and we see that they've already started that relationship a few years, maybe a year ago, since it's 2 years in. So very great relationship between the two of them. We also have to talk about Batcat. One of the best DC ships. Batcat is in this. Unfortunately, by the end of the movie, Selina Kyle leaves Gotham, and Batman's all sad because that's his woman, that's his future wife. I hope we get to see more Batcat in the future because this is a great DC relationship. So I would really love to see more of that in the future. Let's talk potential sequels. So at the end of this, we get an unseen Arkham Asylum prisoner that was confirmed by Matt Reeves to be the Joker, and he's played by Barry Keoghan. I know apparently that's not how you say that last name, but to me it's Keoghan, so I'm going to say it that way. Who previously was in Dunkirk, he was in Eternals, he played Druig, so he's definitely getting more popular. I don't think they're going to use Joker in any of the sequels. He might pop up. He might pop up here and there, kind of like how after Batman Begins, Scarecrow just kept popping up in the Nolan trilogy. But I don't think they're going to use him as the main villain. So we get a very interesting look. We get kind of a little bit of a look. We don't get a full facial look. He's like hidden in the shadows, so we don't see too much of him. But interesting take. Matt Reeves confirmed yes, he is the Joker, and confirmed that Batman has already encountered the Joker before. So I hope they just leave him kind of alone and they go in different direction for different villains, because there's a lot of great villains that I think need a chance or a second chance. They talked about Court of Owls being a potential sequel. I know Paul Dano and Robert Pattinson were very much on board for that. I think we could see the Riddler maybe pop up when he goes to visit Arkham to talk to patients. I think that could be the same thing with Joker, that he pops up then, but I don't think he'll be a main villain going forward. Obviously, a big candidate is Penguin, since he is still out there running crime, and things are gonna get real weird now that Gotham is flooded. I would really, really love to see a Poison Ivy. I would love to see a Mr. Freeze. So they've already been in a film together. They were in Batman and Robin, but the Poison Ivy, Uma Thurman was great as Poison Ivy, don't get me wrong, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was not great as Mr. Freeze. We need a different version of Mr. Freeze that is more comic accurate, or at least more similar to Batman the Animated Series. So I would really love to see that going forward. It's a shame that this is a separate universe in the aspect that we won't see Catwoman ever interact with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I don't want to see a version of Harley Quinn in this at all. I think we should just leave her in the regular DC universe and have this be like the Elseworld DC universe. So like this is separate, like Joker is separate, so just keep it separate. I don't want to see Harley Quinn in this universe at all. I know a lot of people are talking about who they would cast as this version of Harley Quinn. It's kind of hard to see Harley Quinn as anybody other than Margot Robbie, but I couldn't see Margot Robbie Harley Quinn in this universe at all. I think it would just be really weird. But that is it. Who do you want to see in a sequel? Who do you want to see as the villain or villains in potential sequels, potential trilogies of the Batman? Did you love the Batman as much as I did? I give it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Pretty high score there, because it's the highest you can give it. So let me know your thoughts on the film down below. As always, I've been Odds. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday with a new video. Bye!